17 years later, the devil is back and she's wearing Prada once again. The whispers are true, the rumors are over, and the wait is finally done. The Devil Wears Prada 2 has been confirmed. And the fashion world is already trembling? Asterisk, when The Devil Wears Prada first hit theaters in 2006, no one could have predicted the cultural wave it would unleash. On the surface, it was a glamorous comedy about the high-stakes world of fashion publishing. But beneath the couture et sharp one-liners, it carried something deeper, a story about power, ambition, and the price of success. At the center of it all was Miranda Priestly, played by Meryl Streep, the editor-in-chief who was equal parts terrifying and mesmerizing. She was icy, commanding, and untouchable, a figure who didn't need to raise her voice to dominate a room. With just a subtle glance, she could silence anyone around her. And that presence cemented her as one of the greatest characters in modern cinema. But the film wasn't just about Miranda. It was also about Andy Sachs, the fresh-faced assistant played by Anne Hathaway. Andy represented the everyday dreamer, someone smart, ambitious, but also a little lost. Watching her transform from a small-town girl with no fashion sense into someone who could navigate the merciless corridors of Runway magazine gave the audience both thrill and heartbreak. Because while Andy grew, she also had to make sacrifices, friendships strained, love tested, and her own values challenged by the glittering world she stepped into. And then, of course, there was Emily, played by Emily Blunt, whose razor-sharp wit and biting sarcasm made her an instant fan favorite. She was Miranda's senior assistant, constantly teetering between ambition and desperation, fighting to keep her place in an office where perfection wasn't just expected, it was demanded. Her rivalry with Andy gave the movie some of its most hilarious and cutting moments, but it also revealed something very real: the lengths people go to just to survive in a world that shows no mercy. The film became more than just a comedy, it became a mirror to the idea of success in the modern world. Do you sell out your values for opportunity? Do you fight to stay true to yourself even when the world around you demands that you change? These questions are why The Devil Wears Prada stuck with audiences long after the credits rolled. It wasn't just about fashion, it was about life, ambition, and the silent battles people fight behind closed doors. That's why news of a sequel has sent shockwaves across fans worldwide. Because the story didn't end in 2006, the fashion industry has changed, the media landscape has transformed, and the questions raised in the first film have only become sharper. Social media dominates trends, influencers rival magazine editors, and the idea of who controls fashion is no longer so clear. Which begs the question, in a world ruled by Instagram and TikTok, does Miranda Priestly still reign supreme? Or has the devil had to adapt to survive? This is why the confirmation of The Devil Wears Prada 2 feels like more than just another sequel. It feels like a cultural event, a chance to revisit not only beloved characters but also a conversation that is still alive today. The return of Miranda, Andy, and Emily is not just nostalgia, it's a reminder that ambition, style, and sacrifice are timeless stories, and the fashion world is still the perfect backdrop to explore them. Asterisk, the trailer for The Devil Wears Prada 2 wastes no time in setting the tone. From the very first frame, it is clear that this is not just a nostalgic return, but a bold continuation. The screen fades in with a sweeping shot of New York City, its skyline glittering under the night. And then a subtle detail appears: Runway magazine's iconic logo lighting up a massive billboard in Times Square. It's more than just an opening scene. It's a declaration that the empire of Miranda Priestly is still alive, still powerful, and still untouchable. The next sequence immediately pulls us back into Miranda's world. The camera cuts to a luxurious office, sleek, minimal, and cold. A pair of heels click across a marble floor, and without even seeing her face, the audience knows who it is. The unmistakable silhouette, the perfectly tailored coat, the subtle toss of her handbag onto a chair. Miranda Priestly is back. The trailer doesn't need dialogue here. Her presence says everything. It's the kind of visual callback fans were waiting for, and it sends shivers down the spine. But the trailer isn't just about Miranda. Soon after, we see glimpses of Andy Sachs. She's no longer the wide-eyed assistant we remember. Instead, She appears confident, walking through a boardroom, dressed in power suits rather than borrowed Chanel. The trailer cleverly juxtaposes her past with her present, quick flashes of her clumsy beginnings in 2006, followed by her commanding presence now. There's a subtle smile on her face, one that suggests she has grown, but also one that hints at unfinished business. The music swells here, a reimagined version of the original soundtrack, but heavier, darker, as if to suggest the stakes have grown even higher. Then comes Emily. In one of the trailer's most crowd-pleasing reveals, we see her striding down a RUNWA backstage, headset on, clipboard in hand, barking orders like a general leading her troops. It's clear she has carved her own space in the fashion world, and the trailer positions her not just as Miranda's ex-assistant, but as a formidable player in her own right. The way she flips through designer sketches with her signature disdainful smirk is both hilarious and triumphant. She may no longer be stuck fetching coffee, but that doesn't mean she has softened. The trailer also teases new players in the story. A mysterious young fashion influencer flashes across the screen, cameras trailing her every move. Her presence is striking, confident, bold, and clearly positioned as the voice of a new generation. Then there's a fast-paced montage of boardroom arguments, fashion shows, and glamorous parties, hinting at a central conflict between the old guard, represented by Miranda, and the digital-first newcomers who are redefining style and influence. It's not just a generational clash, it's a war for the throne of fashion itself. One of the most talked-about moments in the trailer comes halfway through. Miranda, standing in front of a sea of flashing cameras, delivers a single, icy line: "The world doesn't need another influencer. It still needs me." The delivery is classic Miranda, sharp, unshaken, and dripping with disdain. It's the kind of line that instantly goes viral, the kind that fans will be quoting for years. The trailer pauses here, almost as if to let the weight of her words sink in before cutting to a dramatic orchestral beat. As the trailer races toward its climax, the editing becomes faster. Sharper glimpses of Andy and Miranda in the same room, their eyes locked in a silent duel. Emily shouting backstage as chaos unfolds. And quick flashes of new faces whose roles are still shrouded in mystery. There's even a brief, blink and you'll miss it moment where Andy seems to confront Miranda in her office, slamming a folder onto the desk. That single frame has already sparked endless fan theories. Is Andy finally standing up to her old boss, or is she about to be pulled back into Miranda's orbit? The trailer ends the way only The Devil Wears Prada could. The camera lingers on Miranda one last time as she slowly removes her sunglasses, looks directly at the camera, and delivers a single word: pathetic. The screen cuts to black, the title card slams into view, and the release date flashes across the screen. It's the perfect mic drop moment, the kind that leaves fans breathless and desperate for more. What makes this trailer so powerful is not just the nostalgia, but the balance between old and new. It gives fans exactly what they craved: Miranda's sharp tongue, Andy's growth, Emily's sass, while also teasing fresh storylines and conflicts. It doesn't feel like a rehash, it feels like evolution. The fashion world is different now, the battlefield has shifted, but the hunger, ambition, and ruthlessness remain the same. This is why the trailer has already taken over social media. Fans are dissecting every frame, speculating on every glance, and debating what alliances and rivalries will define this sequel. If the trailer is any indication, The Devil Wears Prada 2 is not just returning to the world we love, it's reimagining it for a new era, while keeping the heart of what made the first film unforgettable. The heartbeat of The Devil Wears Prada 2 lies not only in its sharp storytelling, but in the faces that bring it to life. And this sequel knows exactly where its power lies by bringing back the icons who made the original unforgettable. The trailer confirmed what fans had been praying for. Meryl Streep is returning as Miranda Priestly. Even in the briefest shots, her presence dominates, reminding us why she is still the queen of cinematic intimidation. Miranda is not just a character anymore, she is a symbol of elegance, fear, and ambition rolled into one. Seeing her back on screen is like watching a storm gather on the horizon, inevitable, unstoppable, and thrilling. Anne Hathaway also makes her grand return as Andy Sachs, and it's immediately clear that her journey has come full circle. No longer the uncertain young assistant fumbling with stilettos and designer coats, Andy now carries herself with the authority of someone who has battled the industry and carved her own place in it. She isn't wide-eyed anymore. She's sharp, measured, and unafraid. And yet, the trailer hints at conflict glances that suggest she is being pulled into Miranda's world once again. Fans are already debating whether Andy has finally surpassed her mentor, or if she is destined to be drawn back into the orbit of the woman who once ruled her life. Then there's Emily Blunt, reprising her role as the ever-hilarious, razor-tongued Emily Charlton. In the first film, she was Miranda's ambitious assistant, desperate to hold her spot at runway. But in the sequel, she appears to have broken free from that cycle, emerging as a fashion powerhouse in her own right. One shot in the trailer shows her commanding a backstage runway show with fierce confidence, proof that Emily has transformed from the stressed assistant who once fretted about Paris into a figure others now look up to. And yet, her trademark wit remains intact. You can practically hear her biting remarks before she even opens her mouth, but The Devil Wears Prada 2 isn't just a reunion, it's an evolution. Alongside these returning legends, the sequel introduces a new generation of characters who reflect the shifting world of fashion. One of the most intriguing additions is a young, bold influencer whose rise has unsettled the industry. Her presence signals a collision between the old guard of glossy magazines and the new era of digital dominance, while her exact role remains shrouded in mystery. The glimpses of her in the trailer suggest she will serve as both a rival and a disruptor, forcing characters like Miranda, Andy, and Emily to confront how the industry has changed. Rumors also point to new supporting characters, from designers who represent the cutting edge of fashion to corporate executives who see fashion as numbers and profits rather than art. These fresh faces will test the loyalties of our returning trio, pulling them in different directions and challenging their ideals. Imagine Miranda battling to prove her continued relevance, Andy trying to balance ambition with integrity, and Emily fighting to keep her newfound authority. Add a new generation of ambitious climbers into the mix, and the stage is set for an electrifying clash. What's most fascinating is how each returning character's arc mirrors real-world changes. Miranda, once the unquestioned ruler of print media, now faces a world that questions her influence. Andy, once the underdog, may finally stand as her equal or perhaps her greatest threat. Emily, once desperate for approval, now commands respect on her own terms. The sequel isn't simply placing them back where we left them, it's showing us how time, success, and struggle have reshaped them. And that's what gives this cast lineup so much depth. It's not nostalgia for its own sake. It's the continuation of lives we feel invested in. The chemistry between these actors is also what fans are most excited about. Streep, Hathaway, and Blunt brought a balance of comedy, drama, and razor-sharp tension in the original, and the thought of them colliding again is nothing short of exhilarating. Just the idea of Andy and Emily reuniting two former assistants, who once squabbled over Paris, now meeting as equals with power of their own, opens the door for both comedic clashes and poignant moments. And when you add Miranda's icy dominance into the mix, it's clear that sparks will fly in every scene they share. This is the brilliance of the confirmed cast. It honors the legacy of the first film while also acknowledging that the world has changed. Fans don't just want to see their favorite characters again. They want to see how they've grown, how they've adapted, and whether they can still survive in a landscape that is more ruthless than ever. And with this cast, the film is perfectly positioned to deliver on that promise. In the end, the power of The Devil Wears Prada 2 isn't just in its story, it's in its people. Watching Miranda, Andy, and Emily step back into the battlefield of fashion is like watching warriors return to the arena. They are older, wiser, sharper, but the stakes are higher than ever. And with a new generation ready to challenge them, this cast lineup sets the stage for a clash that will be as stylish as it is dramatic. What makes The Devil Wears Prada 2 so enticing is not only the return of its beloved characters, but also the possibilities of where their lives and the fashion industry have gone since 2006. The trailer gives us flashes, hints, and whispers, but it's the unanswered questions that fuel speculation. What story is waiting to be told? And what themes will drive this long-awaited sequel? One of the most compelling directions is Miranda Priestly's struggle to maintain her iron grip on an industry that has transformed beyond recognition. In the first film, she was the uncheckable queen of print fashion media, controlling what trends lived and died. But in today's world, influence has shifted. Fashion is no longer dictated solely by glossy magazine covers. It is shaped by viral moments, streetwear culture, and influencers whose followings rival traditional brands. This sets the stage for a fascinating question. Can Miranda Priestly still rule in a digital-first age? Or will she find herself challenged by younger, hungrier forces who thrive in chaos rather than order? Andy Sachs, on the other hand, seems poised for her own clash. When we left her, she had walked away from Miranda and Runway, choosing integrity and self-respect over power and glamour. But the trailer shows us a different Andy, composed, confident, and commanding in high-stakes settings. It's possible she has built a new empire for herself, one that blends journalism with modern media, perhaps even running her own publication or digital platform. Yet the trailer teases tension, suggesting that fate might pull her back into Miranda's world. Is she returning to Runway to challenge her old mentor? Or is she being forced to choose between personal values and professional ambition once again? The beauty of Andy's arc lies in this duality. She has grown. But growth doesn't erase the scars of her past. Then there's Emily Charlton. Her presence in the trailer is a triumph, not just because she survived the fire of Runway, but because she appears to have thrived in the years since. Some speculate that Emily may now lead her own fashion house or production company, orchestrating runway shows and events that rival the biggest names in the business. Her art could represent a different kind of ambition, the kind that blossoms after failure and humiliation. While Andy rejected Miranda's world, Emily embraced it, clawed her way through, and re-emerged with her own brand of authority. But what happens when Emily's ambitions collide with Miranda's control or Andy's integrity? The potential for fiery confrontations and sharp dialogue is limitless. Beyond individual arcs, the film seems destined to explore larger themes. The battle between tradition and innovation, between legacy institutions like Runway and the disruptive energy of influencers, feels central. Imagine Miranda's disdainful eye rolls at TikTok-driven trends, contrasted with Andy or Emily acknowledging the power of digital voices. This tension mirrors our real-world conversations. Who defines taste now? Is it a single tastemaker like Miranda Priestly, or is it millions of users on Instagram dictating style from their bedrooms? Another rich theme is the price of success. In a world where the definition of making it has shifted. In the first film, success meant working at Runway, surviving Miranda, and getting a seat at the table. But in 2025, success might look very different. It might mean independence, freedom, or even rejecting the structures that once dictated power. Andy, Emily, and Miranda embody three different philosophies: walking away, adapting, and clinging to dominance. Seeing those philosophies crash against each other promises not only drama, but also a deeper reflection of how the fashion world mirrors life itself. And of course, no Prada story is complete without its fashion-forward backdrop. Expect the sequel. To dive into issues that are timely and relevant: sustainability and luxury, the ethics of fast fashion, and the role of diversity and inclusion in an industry once criticized for its exclusivity. These aren't just surface-level details, they could become points of conflict in the story. Imagine Miranda dismissing eco-conscious trends as temporary fads, while Andy or a new character champions them as the future of fashion. These debates could give the sequel a sharper, more modern edge. At its heart, though, The Devil Wears Prada 2 is about relationships. Miranda and Andy's mentor-protege dynamic remains one of cinema's most compelling power struggles, and its return promises tension and emotional depth. Andy and Emily's bond, once bitter rivalry, could transform into an uneasy alliance or even friendship. and Miranda herself may be forced to confront the one thing she has always avoided: change. Watching her adapt or refuse to adapt will define the soul of this sequel. Ultimately, the themes of The Devil Wears Prada 2 are bigger than fashion. They're about ambition, legacy, power, and the cost of chasing dreams in a world that never stops evolving. Just as the first film asked whether it was worth selling your soul for success, the sequel seems ready to ask, what do you do once you've already sold it?